open. And have we got any apologies first?
Haven't heard anything.
Haven't heard.
Sandra, I assume she'll be joining us.
Right, so we'll just hold that. We haven't got anyone in public forum. Is there anything not on the agenda of an urgent nature that anyone wants to raise? No. Any conflicts of interest? And then we go on to the minutes of our February meeting. Are you hearing all right, Terry?
Yeah, hey, clear as a bell, thank you.
Excellent. So first of all, are they a true and correct record? Anyone got any issues about the accuracy? And if they haven't, well then, is there any matters arising that aren't addressed that you want addressed in the report to come? Anything anyone wants to raise from this? Otherwise, I'll move that we receive those minutes.
I'll second them.
All those in favour? Aye. Excellent. So I'm just going to go through this agenda and if we finish, you know, whatever time it takes, but I'm not going to mess about because we haven't got a big agenda. So I'm not trying to set a record for the quickest, but we'll do the business and then we'll get on to the next business. So I'm just going to keep going. And so then we get on to Gary's report. Thanks, Gary. Can I just say something right at the beginning? I just want to acknowledge the last months of COVID and water shortages and droughts and what that's meant for you and your team, and really want to acknowledge you, your team, and the bigger organisation for how they've fed into all of this. So just wanted to say that up front, and if you could pass that on, would appreciate that, Gary.
Will do, thank you, Sally. Okay, well, short, sharp report because a few days after we last met, the world turned upside down for us. But just going back, we did a lot of preparation prior to Christmas because we were advised by NEMA last September that we were heading for a drought, and they were absolutely bang on. So we knew, we had a long lead-in time regarding the drought, and that also heightened a lot of risk around fires and everything else, and a lot of people on the Coromandel. So we spent a lot of time preparing, and it paid dividends for us in terms of our basic preparation, but also we got very intense media coverage went out. Right, from November onwards, and so that was our comms, but also we teamed up with the fire service and the police and so forth. And I think as a result of that, it's like a lifeguard scenario. It's prevention rather than life saving, and I think we did a lot in that prevention area, and it paid off well for us because we only had a few minor incidences. There were little scrub fires, but they were normal. We had lots of those anyway. We probably had less. The new year and everything else, the reports coming back with that, the fireworks were very, very minimal compared to what they normally are. So we got through. We dodged a bullet possibly, but we got through okay, and so we were very happy with that. And that was a blessing in disguise because when we went into COVID, thank God we didn't have a major event to deal with. Yeah. So I've got some dates there just at the end of the background there. So this goes back to 12th of March for us. And then I've just got a very short, sharp timeline. And when you look back at it, it was a very short, sharp timeline that the government introduced. But luckily we were prepared. We had our pandemic plan prepared. We had our business continuity plans. And staff they responded pretty well, I think, Bruce, didn't they?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
They were very, very quick off the mark. They understood the managers. We got involved with them really. So I think as a start, as a team, we got underway. And one thing that was very pleasing is that we put IT to the test, possibly for the first time, was serious emergency mode, and they responded. And we had very few IT issues, I think, with the staff. That many staff working remotely and having to come onto the system.
Yeah, it would have been than we expected, I think.
Yeah, because it could have been a disaster because they didn't have
just
yeah, no, well, because their business continuity plan was very complex and we didn't actually have it together. So that would be well.
I think you saw that across the whole of the country though, you know, like a lot of it as well. Like I think a lot of us know how well it worked and thought this isn't going to work, but it actually did. So yeah,
Y2K all over again.
Yeah, but that'll be really useful learning for future events which we will have on this peninsula, and even how you
Yes.
organise your businesses. People will now be able, if a Koku Hikuai's out, it won't be a disaster so much now. People will be able to settle down and do their jobs at home.
slot back into that operating model.
Yeah, so long term, I think positive.
Definitely.
It's probably timely to say, to ask Bruce just to explain about where the leadership team are taken in terms of working remotely.
Yeah, so through the chair, so we've tried to keep in touch with staff, and where we're doing at the moment, we're working as a quite a tight little leadership. Donna Holland, who's corporate services manager, she's got people capability under her team. So what we've got Donna doing the communications out to staff about the working arrangements, and so we're getting regular updates every couple of weeks is what we've done around that. And the last one went out yesterday to say, because we'd said the next one would be out late May, about how we're going, and where we've kind of gone with it is that we're actually not making a big change at this stage. So really where it's going, the two words that I've kind of locked onto and used through the whole thing is flexibility and I forgot the other word that I'm using, balance. Flexibility and balance is really where I've kind of pushed it. And so that's about being trying to maintain that balance between working from home and working in the office, and also being flexible, know that you are going to have to come in from time to time, but we don't want you coming in just for the sake of it. So we're more than happy that people work at home. As long as you're productive and still delivering and still doing what you need to do, we've got no issue with people working from home. And so we're putting a bit of trust in people that they need to be good at self-managing, but 99% of people are going to be good, and we actually have been really impressed and surprised by the way everyone has worked and how productive everyone's been over that period. Now, there's always going to be, one or two people, but you'd get that if you're working in the office or you're working.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, that's just humanity and life. But overall, we've been really impressed. So we're really empowering people to stay working from home and working from work, whatever they need to do, whatever they feel is right for them, their family situation, and how they can best be productive while maintaining that balance and flexibility. So that's kind of where we've carried on. And we've also been clear and said, look, things might change. If things change, they change, and we'll let you know. But we're not saying this is locked in, this is how it's going to be forever, or next 10 years, or next 12 months. We're saying this is as it is at the moment. This is what we know, and just keep in touch with the team leader and manager. So yeah,
Cool.
it's good.
Thanks.
Okay, so carrying on. So coincidentally, just before we got into COVID, the drought was taken effect, and NEVA, through people that we'd worked with before, came along and offered us support to fill water tanks. And primarily this was in the more the poorer communities we have on the peninsula. So we grabbed that with open arms, and we got stuck in, and I think I've got some figures here. So we're well over 1.6 million litres now, and we're getting close to 200 households. But if you average out that there's obviously often 4 or 5 people per household, often more than that, we've put water into pretty, a lot of the population, and it's still going. So Bruce, one of Bruce's managers, was pretty much full-time on it for us, and they've done a great job. It's been very, very good. And the model that we used has been, they asked our permission if they could pedal it around the country and show the others how to do it, because the other councils, they just couldn't get their head around it. It became complicated, and we just had a simple spreadsheet.
Simple.
Name the biggest rank file.
That's how my brain works.
But it was, we just designed a very simple spreadsheet, and I had staff from the Eileen Hopping, she managed it, and John Stemmers, Bruce's water manager, he controlled it, and between the two of them, they banged this out on an hourly basis. And we had three water delivery companies working for us.
Local companies, yeah.
And they're still, and the worst thing was, of course, there was no water.
Yeah.
So these tankers would have to
Come to tea.
manipulate, well, they weren't allowed in Thames for some time because they drained that and they'd hammered that, so they had to go to Whirianga And Bruce, you opened up a war somewhere up Coromandel way for us.
We were just trying to balance across the different townships, but Gary's right, we were really under pressure in the northern part of the peninsula, so Whitianga Supply and Coromandel. We're both under real pressure, so we took a little bit from Matarangi if you're in Mercury Bay, but we also had water, the majority come from Thames because Thames has got the bigger supply. We don't have that peak over that big period that the other communities do. So we just have to juggle it and manage it. But I think, go back to what Gary was saying, Gary and I met on that first day and sat down and just mapped out just how we could do it, and really simple, like I say, and then handed it across to the staff, to Eileen and John, and then they did a fantastic job managing it with a spreadsheet and these companies. It just really kept it simple, and kept us updated every day on, like, this is how many loads we had yesterday, these are the numbers of people. It did get a little bit complicated at one stage where we had a couple of the social workers who were trying to advocate on behalf of the communities getting involved, and then it was, it's just that the more people get involved in something, the more chance there is for miscommunication and people trying to do the right thing coming in over the top.
Yeah, cool. You've got a question, Terry?
Yes, it's around this water delivery system. It sounds fantastic. Where did they draw the water from, Gary or Bruce? Was this taken, we talked about going to Tauranga, was this the how it worked?
No, so the majority came from the Thames network, Terry. Thames, and then we also had like a limited number being abstracted from the Coromandel and the Matarangi networks. So what we did is, at one stage is it changed based on the need and where things were at around water supplies. But at one point we had that they could take up to 5 tanker loads from Matarangi at one stage. And a tanker is only about 10 cube of water, so it's only 50 cube, where we produce like, kind of between 2,000 and 3,000 cube a day. So it's a very small percentage, but again, so it worked quite well, but we were having to manage the suppliers, manage the customers, manage the contractors, and then manage all the social media people criticising us for letting water go from the schemes of like, don't let all our water go, what are you doing? So there was a lot of moving parts, but because we just tried to keep it so simple, I think it worked. So yeah.
And was it more to rural properties or urban properties?
No, it was basically, it was probably more rural, but it was more like probably the low socioeconomic areas that possibly couldn't afford to bring on multiple loads of water for an extended period. That was how it all kind of kicked off initially.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have a legal responsibility under health. Is this correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. Under health legislation to provide water for people. Is that correct, or am I making that up?
No, that's true. But what happened, of course, is this segued very, very quickly into COVID, and therefore the ministry were demanding that people had to stay at home. They had to have potable water, and that they were then mandated to make it happen. And what was discovered was that a lot of those smaller communities were actually sourcing water out of their local streams, which weren't healthy in the first place because they were dry. So it was very timely, and as I say, it's still functioning. We've actually turned our attention to the domestic farmers' tanks now. These are the tanks at the farmers' households. They'll be a bit better off the last few days, but they are struggling, and of course they have not said anything. They just get on with it, and so we're now working with MPI and Frontier and Co to see what we can do for them.
Who
So I've got
pays?
a question around that, if I may. So how did people connect to get this done? Did they just ring council and set them out of water? How did it work?
So we had 2 staff out working in the smaller isolated communities, and they would report back and say, yeah, these people are legit. And then the other ones where people would just call in, and we would ask them a series of questions regarding, have they ordered a tank? Have they paid for? We just like there's 4 or 5 questions to assess that they are in need.
Yeah.
We turned a lot down who were just trying to take advantage of it, and that was quite disappointing that they tried to get into the system. But yeah, that's basically how it worked, Terry, and word of mouth got around too that we were supporting those that were struggling.
And some of those social workers as well up in some of the northern areas as well. They were well connected with their communities, so they knew. So Gary's team would connect with that social worker and say, well, okay, I've actually known these communities that are in need, so we kind of coordinate like that. So yeah.
Cool. So how's the costs
It's paid
distributed?
for by the Crown,
Right,
Yeah, 100% reimbursement
We did some estimates initially about how much we thought it might cost, and we were conservative. Thinking that bring it all from Thames, so our numbers actually came in way under that, so it's not, we didn't get the extra money, it's not like we get to bank it or anything,
no,
but no, I think it was a good result. We said, this is how much it could be, and they said, okay, we're comfortable with that. And then by the way we were managing it and juggling it and working with the contractors, it actually was way less than that. So I think it's a good thing for New Zealand as a whole.
Yeah.
You know,
So we got more than double what we had budgeted for.
because of
because the way we're
Using the
managing it, and then, you know, they were
excellent.
keen to keep going.
So this is a model that will be potentially rolled out next year when we have a drought or?
It's a model that's sitting there, and if the government wished to take part in it, yeah. So the only issue was, right at the start, was these people have not looked up to our reticulation system. So there was a bit of pushback as to say, why shouldn't TLAs support people who are not? And that was quickly overcome to say, well, we have an obligation to keep people healthy. So it worked.
Cool.
So
Any
obviously, if it happened again next year, I think like Robin's saying, we would have to fund it though. That wouldn't. COVID came in and supported that action, did it?
This actually worked. This was a drought issue, and I would say if we do have another drought in the years to come, the same process will be followed. I'm quite sure about that. Yeah,
Right.
It's not expensive, but it's very, very effective.
It's quite heavy on resource time-wise, though, to manage it well from a start perspective.
Yes.
You know, like having other teams. So it might not be really expensive, but it does need like dedication, you know, to kind of operate in that way. Like it took a couple of staff out of action for quite a lot of the time.
It's quite resource heavy.
Yeah.
Because you're in contact with drivers and companies and so.
But it worked out okay. But I always, who knows? We'll see. You know, but I think we've got the model ready to operate if we need to again. You know what I mean? And there's different ways we can tweak it if we need to around the funding and all those kind of things. But I also think we filed away and not being negative or something quickly about like around water tanks and stuff. We've just got to, you know, we always have a lot of talk about water tanks in this district, and again, water tanks have their place. They are useful as part of the solution, but we've got to be careful, you know, because we get a lot of people go, it's raining, they're sitting inside watching all this rain run down the road, going, hey, we just caught it, our problems have been solved. And as I bang on about all the time, they wouldn't be solved because like you have like what we just had 3 or 4 months of nothing, and all these tanks are dry, you know. So it's a piece of the equation, but it's not a panacea, you know. So.
Any other questions or comments about water before we move on? Thanks, Terry. Thanks, Gary.
Okay, so on to COVID. So I've given you some stats. I'll email these to you, Terry. So we had one of our staff produce a breakdown of stats regarding agencies and where we spend our money and where we did our work. The interesting thing, though, is for us is that it was an event that was quite unusual. It was the first time we had something like this that we had to deal with. It was a slow-moving emergency rather than a storm. We were dealing with the Ministry of Health. It was a civil defence emergency as well. It was very complex, but it was very simply structured, military style. Wellington, the group office in Hamilton, and us. We were the frontline soldiers, and we were directed as to what to do, how to do it, and everything else. And so you were down at the distribution, weren't you, Robin?
Yeah.
Yes. So just I'll just pass around a photograph we took just to show that it was a massive operation. It started out just in one small part of the hall, and then it took over the entire hall. But as you'll see from the stats we distributed, we fed, between us and the food banks, we fed 6,000 odd people. And it's not just one feed, that's a feed for a week or more. So we supplied a lot of food. And the EOC, that went really well. Once again, it required a lot of resources, and I think I've got on here, we had 70 odd staff. So we had a lot of, so it was just shift work. It was 24/7 for a while, then it went to normal business hours, and then 7 days a week. And we had staff working from home on the call centre. and we had a lot of staff in the EOC, logistics, intelligence gathering. We had media, strong media, social media management. But by and large, it was a very successfully run emergency from our perspective. The old guard got back together, the old EOC, and that was within 5 minutes it was away. So that's great to know that the cavalry are here. Yeah. So, but I think so. Where we are now, we have closed our office here. We're not even in monitoring mode. I'm the only one here because the staff are redeployed in the Hamilton office. There's an EOC there, and they are making a decision today on the future of that. It's gone very, very quiet, exceptionally quiet, to the point that they're just wondering what's the point. So we've got staff over there. Each councillor's got staff there, and we're just questioning. That's an expensive resource, and we're just not getting the calls. So, which shows that the wage subsidy is working at the moment, and they've extended that. But people just seem to be getting back on with their lives as much as they can. Most of them hooked into the system, the Ministry of Social Development system, so they're getting money into their bank accounts. Any other questions on COVID while we're here?
Yeah, just one. Is the testing stations wound up now? The Whangamata one, I think, is shut. Have you guys got one over there?
So the Takarawai one is, I think it's operating on an as-needs basis. I think similar to Whangamata, Terry. So the health centre, the medical centre has got the Whangamata one.
Oh, because they had it set up at the Memorial Hall, so they've moved that one back to the medical centre, have they?
Yeah. So testing's still going to be crucial in terms of us assessing whether there's any, further outbreaks or community spread. So the GPs now will be certainly testing. I think nationally yesterday there was about 4,000 tests done or something. So testing becomes even more crucial as far as I'm concerned now, in terms of as we move from level 2 to level 1, etc., or to prove that we can. So hopefully people are identifying when they're at, even the slightest of symptoms. And people in this room, we certainly know people that have been tested recently with mild symptoms. So that's really important, I think.
And they're getting results back in a day.
Yeah.
Positive or negative.
Yeah. So really important. Is there a problem in your community, Terry? Do you feel as if people are worried that there's not enough testing, or?
No, I don't think so. I think it was never really highlighted where the people were. They just said the Coromandel area a couple of times. It mainly was in the Waikato area, and there was a cluster obviously in Matamata. So identification has been quite limited of where they actually are. But no, I think here that there's been a pretty good take-up of people wanting to go and get tested. And, I suppose now it's just symptoms and go to the doctor and they'll test you pretty quickly, I suppose.
Yeah. And certainly if you ring Healthline, well, they'll have all that information. So, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Anything else about COVID, Gary?
No, that's about all. It's, great to see the back end of it if it actually happens.
It's going to be interesting, and as borders open and things like that, I think.
So we talked about level 2 for another month. Is that right, Sally? And then they can reconsider? Is that the way that works?
Jacinta hasn't rung me lately, but I think that level 2, in my understanding and listening to Bloomfield or Blomfield, whatever his name is, 2 cycles at level 2 of 14 days is the optimum, but there'll be the health information and then there'll be the political realities, and the cabinet will decide that. So I think that will be at level 2 till
22nd of June.
27th of June. Whether she brings that forward, I don't know.
Or maybe
It seems to be quite a bit of pressure.
weeks.
Yeah, I think my guess, as Martin just said, is that they'll gradually increase what you can do in level 2 and just slowly and test that. The board is the most interesting thing, how they're going to do that.
Gary, I know a number of people who received a non-essential food parcel through the EOC, and all of them have said to me that it was really nice to know somebody cared, that they were happy and they were in their homes and they were cared for, looked after. They didn't need anything, but they knew that there was somebody out there who thought we could just give them a bit of,
Oh, was that,
sort of morale.
was that the chocolate then?
Yeah, the chocolates.
We got truckloads of chocolate, we couldn't get rid of it.
Oh, really?
So we made up hundreds of these, what we call happy packs.
Yeah.
And most of the pension is on the Coromandel. We had one on
It's
I
great.
love
Yeah.
it.
That was great. They were-
I would have to say also that that month at home, a lot of people have really looked at their lives and their lifestyles, and it might make people a bit transient. But as Bruce said, that working from home now looks like it's going to become a norm for some, at any rate. How they measure that and how it works, I'm not too sure, but it certainly looks like there's a change in how we do things from now in every way we look at it. So interesting life ahead.
Well, even this morning's an example, Terry, because you would have come over pre-COVID and now you're there, you haven't done those miles, you haven't spent that time and you were engaged fully in the meeting.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we had a good example through the chair. We had a good example yesterday at the Mercury Bay Community Board meeting. So I showed up for the board meeting, the Mercury Bay board, all met. But we had all the staff who presented reports just all dialed in.
yeah,
And they're only presenting, Rob and I talked about this morning, they only presented for like 15 minutes. You know what I mean? They're only presenting for a very short time. So to drive an hour and a half up there, if they're based out here, even if they're in that office, you end up then sitting in for ages, whereas they can just dial it, they can just have it sitting there with their mute on and their video off, they can be still working, and then they suddenly get the call, okay, now's your paper, they can just present 10 or 15 minutes, and then that's it. So it's way more efficient from that perspective. It's not replacing this, you know what I mean? Like, we still need to have face-to-face stuff, but for a lot of the minimal presenting a report, it's way more efficient. So,
And just through the chair, I heard the Tairua Pawanui one where I think you called up Ross, who had headed.
Yes, I
Who
do.
had headed out, so he was sitting on the side of the road somewhere.
Talking on the phone.
And then after a while you said, oh, actually, I think we've still got Ross on the line.
Yeah.
So that was quite funny.
but that's that flexibility and balance thing, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah, totally,
Yeah.
He was off to another job site.
Yeah.
Have a look at it, yeah.
So he's not wasting time.
So that was good.
Excellent. Okay.
Okay, and the last, I've got two little bits to my report, the IAD device.
Yeah.
So I presented that, of course, to council the 12th of May, and it's been deferred to a workshop. It was quite difficult because we went around and we were all talking in, it was sort of quite hard to explain things, but just by way of explanation to this committee, Councillor Gottlieb picked me up on a Cordia peer review report, and he was quite correct. I shouldn't have included the Cordia part of that statement, those two words shy, I should have left them out, because what we had is we had an 80 to 90% strike rate in the early part of the program. Cordia questioned that, as we asked them to do. And we've got to understand that a peer review is a point of view, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in a second. So then we had a second set of tests done, and once again they claimed they had 80 to 90% Cordia question. And then we had another set of tests done, we've got 80–90%, which we are confident that we've got something to move forward on. With the second review, where Cordia said you're around 70–72%, I had the two scientists, I had the Cordia scientist and the IAB scientist, or the brains behind it, in the room. And it was a very animated discussion about interpretation of data. And so the IAD guy was saying, no, we're basing it on this and this and this, and Cordia said, well, you can do that, but what about this? So it was a point of view. So we took that as a cautionary note from Cordia that it wasn't possibly as high as they were claiming. Were they stretching the truth? And it turns out that possibly they weren't. So what I've presented to council and what I'm seeking from the committee today is that we have got something that is worth exploring. I think as our obligation to keep people safe and as an alternative in the future to silence. It needs to go to a workshop, and I'm going to put some energy around getting those people back into the room. I'll get national and regional representative, and I'm even going to invite the IAD director to come along as well. So the councillors can really have a real good discussion with them as well, and we'll go through the data from there.
Right. So I'm interested in other people's comments, but my sense is that we need to be really clear about the cost of the business case. So I don't think we should delay that till after the workshop, because that would be predetermining the result of the workshop. So I think that as a committee, and I'm interested in people's feedback, I'd be wanting to move that we support the manager getting, what would you call it?
Oh, getting all the quotes and getting the bones around the business case.
Yes, because even though people, it does seem to be an issue that is people have a lot of energy for, and I just feel as if this committee has responsibilities to inform the full council of their obligations. So I'd be wanting to move something when we get to the resolution, adding another one saying that we support further investigation of the IOD model. We acknowledge that there's a workshop to be had, but that we continue to work towards the business case and have clarity of costs, etc., pre that workshop, so we're not losing months, because I've sat regionally and you people have sat here and heard from regional and national people how important this is, and other councillors haven't. So I'll be moving that way, and we'll see whether I have support for that. Does anyone want to comment?
Yeah, I've got a comment. I've read the 744 pages, which was a lengthy agenda to read, and I rang Stephen Hunt and told him, I says, look, if you had a summary page of these reports by those people who present them, they could highlight those issues and highlight the things that we need to hear that make us make those decisions. And I thought, if Gary, if you'd done that, would you been able to talk to that quite clearly, because it is hard to drill down through all the information to understand where the issue is or where the benefits are coming through. And I would ask all council reports that are over 5 or 6 pages long to have a summary page, so they can speak to that summary page, especially from a distance when we're listening, learning from a distance or reading from a distance. It makes a big difference if you've got that key points that you can drill down on and understand.
Yeah. And I don't think Gary would disagree with that. And, you know, we were in the middle of COVID, and so, you know, and so I think that, and that's what will be really clear at the workshop, like, these are the issues, this is the points. And so I don't disagree with you, Terry. And it's just how you actually present the information in a way that's really clear for people. Yeah.
I get it. So, I mean, just by way of explanation, Terry, it was written during my controller duty role. It was quickly put together. I did write a cover report, but once again, in that cover report, I probably should have put a bit more data in there that we could have chewed on. And in the end, I just said, Darren, just give me everything. So we just sent attachment to attachment. So I take it on board, and when we get the agenda or the ingredients for the business case, I'll certainly make sure that's covered in there as well.
Yeah, it's almost like we needed a mini business case to approve a business case, and that was the challenge. So
it's a bit like a kind of go-no-go, you know, like a short bit that says, are we going to go and do the business case? You know, which has a little bit of information. Enough information that says, yes, actually, based on this, we do want to proceed to the business case stage.
Yeah.
You know? So, but I think it's good discussion. I think Terry's point's a good one around the clarity of the cover reports. And picking up on what Gary said, I've just been finalising a report myself this morning for another committee. And we have the comprehensive report, we have the cover report, that's how we do it now. But traditionally, the way it's been done is the cover report's very sparse. And I've actually been adding a bit more information into the cover report. There's nothing to stop you doing that, but it's just how you try and balance out again, the comprehensive report and the cover report, because you don't want to have two comprehensive reports, you know what I mean? So it's giving enough in the cover report without going over too much. So it's quite a tricky balance to strike. But I think this discussion is good, and I think that for this committee, I think a resolution like you're talking about, Sally, is very useful. I think it's useful for this committee to be comfortable in asking you the questions that they need to, of Gary now, to make sure that this committee is fully on the same page and aligned moving forwards to the workshop, So I think that's very useful. I think you picked up on that with the, we need to add another resolution in there maybe on this report to kind of signal that. So I think that's really good. And I think if we could do that, that sets it up good for the workshop, because if the committee's got questions, now's a good time to try and get the questions out, what I mean? So that you guys can feel, there's nothing worse than sitting there and thinking, I'm 90% there, but I don't quite get it. You want to be able to stand up with your hand on your heart and say, I understand this, we're on this page, and this is why we're moving to business case stage, So that would be
So I think the issues that I picked up was whether, the role of the national governments and what they're working with their cell phone stuff, where that fits. And I think there's a sense that somewhere there's one bullet that's going to do it all. And I think that sense of there is going to be a range of tools to get the cover we need. That's another issue for people. Cost is a huge issue, and who's going to pay? And that will be part of the business case. So it's all of those issues were playing on people's minds, and there was a sense. So I think the workshop's going to be really crucial to get clarity of what this is, what does it cover, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's really, and for me, what's really important is, and I feel accountable for, do people fully understand what they're legally, what this organisation is has to do, even if it doesn't want it to do it, or even if the government should do it, what is it responsible for?
There's several levels there. It's what we've required legislatively versus what we actually want to do as a good council, so it's making sure we understand that clearly. And I think your point's a good one as well, is that as humans, we want it to be simple. So we really wish and hope for one solution that's going to do everything. Everyone wants to latch on to this is the one thing. I know that doesn't get everything. We're not interested in that one. Let's look for the next one thing that's going to get us there. That's just not reality. So I think it's going to be a range of issues of how we get that coverage and how we provide that, across the communities.
So anyone else want to add anything to the IOD conversation, and we'll add a resolution in at the end when because you've got one more thing to talk about.
Very briefly.
You haven't done anything other than
the last week program in February is exactly the same. I'll have that updated for you in our next meeting, which I understand will be sometime in July. So so work program just went out the door.
Good morning. How are you, That's all right. We
not so usually attend. So you're such capable hands.
Just
no, seriously. And if I could just add here, that's probably completely out of context, but we've all slowed down after the lockdown. But I have to say, I think that Gary and Steve Davis together did the most outstanding job. Honestly, we didn't need my kiddo. And I back our team being one of the best teams in the country for civil defence emergency use situations, and that includes the pandemic. The work you did was amazing, Gary, and everybody was absolutely snowed under for that first month. I could see it, but because everybody was locked down at home, they couldn't see it. It was only those ones that were directly involved that could really see that huge workload and impact. So, Sally, to you and your team, brilliant job, absolutely brilliantly done.
So thanks for that, because at the beginning I acknowledged that the meeting now towards the end you're doing that. So I think that's really important, because where we live and the times we're in, we've got to be good at this stuff, because if something happens, we're going to have it.
That's it.
You know, your practice rate is high compared to
I
other
believe you swear
organisations.
very well. I had a 3-minute conversation with her worship, and I've never sworn so much.
And I didn't mind, because lockdown has been a really emotional experience, and for everybody, including myself, no one's exempted from that. And I don't know if people appreciate the depths to which they have been affected emotionally. And so I don't mind people venting. You can tell the difference. Myself, I believe I can tell the difference between a venting and an absolute, you know, like a direct attack. So I mean, I was no sooner in this job as mayor than I had to declare a civil defence emergency. Gary was absolutely outstanding at that time because we have had so much experience in this district, and I think that's why we are leading civil defence, emergency and response in this country.
So there you go. High praise indeed.
It is, but
Yeah.
that's true. I wouldn't
Yeah.
say it if I didn't believe it to be true.
That's me, Madam Chair, thank you.
Any other questions and comments before I move to the resolution?
Right, how's Terry getting on?
Yeah, I'm fine down here. The weather's nice over in Whangamata.
It's not nice here.
It's lovely here, right?
So I'm going to move to the resolution, and number 1 is receives the Emergency Management Unit Manager's Report dated 22nd May 2020. And then I would like to add another one, which is from this committee to council, that we support further investigation of the IAD model and continue towards an IAD business case, because it feels really important that at that workshop, costings, etc., are available and clear. So I'm going to move that way. Have I got a seconder?
Yes.
Right, so seconded by Robin. Any further comments? All those in favour say aye. Aye. Any nays? No, thank you very much. So, I'll, just in terms of, before I finish, your team, and I presume that's Helen and Pam, over in Hamilton at this point in time. I read something that Helen was in charge of welfare. If that, I suppose this is none of my business and it's your business, but will they have some leave or something once they're finished? Right.
So she's waiting.
Yeah, just, yeah, and it's your role and not mine.
I'll be off for a week, or the next week or the week after.
Perfect, yeah, because it just feels, and you people look after yourselves as well, but it just does feel like what you were saying there around some trying to be formal and not formal at the same time. That, you know, people do have to look after themselves, as well as a huge amount of work to be done and caught up on. People's well-being is important in this organisation, and yeah, thank you. Anyone else want to make any comments? You going surfing now, Terry?
No, my surfing days are over, sorry.
Okay, well, I'll declare the meeting closed at whatever time it is. 9:44. 9:44. I'm really pleased that we have this facility, Terry. So